Today I sense a quiet stillness from an academic institution that thrives on sounds and the pulsating beat of everyday life. I sense a subdued celebratory mood that has replaced the lively and festive air every September as we celebrate the life and times of our beloved Bicol University. As I look back at the golden moments in last year's 50th founding anniversary, the carnival rides, the food booth, the open-air cultural night, the glitz and glamour of the entire celebration, I can't help but be nostalgic. But all the nostalgia cannot replace the feeling of pride I have right now for my Bicol University family. Because in spite of the present situation, we have been thrust in unexpectedly. We have managed to ride the waves of change that this COVID-19 pandemic has brought. With each other's constant help and support, we were able to pool our innate talents and resources to organize in such a short time a capability enhancement for flexible learning. Our respective colleges, units, and offices all came together to ensure that safety mechanisms were in place to guarantee that the usual process will not be hampered or limited. Adaptive measures were likewise instituted. Most of all, each of us rose to the challenge of this pandemic by responding to the needs of our students, faculty members, and frontliners who were caught off guard during the lockdown.
Local time ngunyan and fabrication laboratory kan Bicol University College of Industrial Technology sa pag-ibo kan mga face shields para sa mga frontliners sa rehiyon.
Makakatama, sabi ko sa nila, this is the best time to learn. So mula tayo ako ng ibinigay because indeed, this is the best time to learn.
Ngunyan nasubuot ang panahon tanganing magtarabangan ng gana maprotehiran ng mga frontliners sa Bicol, dawa nga ni day pang naitatalang positibong kaso ng COVID-19 sa rehiyon. Thea Omelan, ABS-CBN News.
Alumni, partner institutions, along with the skills and talents of our faculty and personnel, were able to fabricate face shields, disinfectant mats, and others that were given to our frontliners as immediate assistance. This resulted in enhanced and widespread COVID-19 assistance. We opened our doors to our medical frontliners and offered our grounds and dormitories, even in our external campuses. Food, donations, and other forms of assistance followed through the initiatives of various units, colleges, and alumni. we came through for our students who were stranded in the midst of the province-wide lockdown. The Bayanihan spirit was so much more felt and is infinitely alive in the hearts of every BUNU. We did not leave any student behind and ensured their safe return from their families. We are not indifferent to your plight, my dear students, because we care more than you would ever realize. Now, on our 51st founding anniversary, we call on the same communal spirit of sharing and service as we take on the celebratory cry of Pagandurog to our students and frontliners. Burugkos, burunyog sa pag-andurog sa panahon ng pandemya. Reflecting the spirit of unity and oneness, we call on the entire Bicol University family to extend your help to share and serve as change agents for social transformation and development. As we give due honor to our frontliners, we are likewise keeping in mind the travails and despair, the joys and hopes, the cry and anguish of our students in keeping with the sudden change in learning and living. Your Bicol University cares, and this is not just mere lip service. We walk our talk as we are launching the social service program for Tabang sa Pag-adal. We may be in the midst of this pandemic storm, but we don't just sit and lick our wounds. We are, after all, a resilient people. We think of ways and means to help ourselves and to help others more. That is the Bicol University spirit infused in every BU scholar and in every faculty and personnel. And it is what we bring out best as we celebrate and look back at our moments and continue to look ahead and live our dreams for Bicol University. Burugkos, burunyog sa pag-andurog sa panahon ng pandemya is the celebratory cry of the Bicol University family. Should we not celebrate? Perhaps not in the usual way we often look up to in terms of celebration, but the spirit of service and helping where we are most needed is always worthy of being celebrated. As one Bicol University family, let us continue living our dreams and helping others to live theirs and build more dreams together. Congratulations to all of us and happy 51st founding anniversary, dear Bicol University.
everyone. Good afternoon. First, let's start this program sa isang pagbati at pakikiisa sa pagdiriwang ng ating pagkakatatag bilang isang institusyon. Happy 52nd founding anniversary to our dear Bicol University. Indeed, in these extraordinary times, the entire academic community, from its board of regents and administrators down to its faculty members, non-teaching personnel, students, and other equally important stakeholders work together and uphold the principles of collaboration, compassion, and competence to continue the tradition of providing quality education amidst the pandemic. Patuloy pa rin nararanasan ang matinding epekto ng COVID-19 sa iba't ibang aspekto ng ating buhay, lalo't higit po sa larangang pangkalusugan, pang-ekonomiya at panglipunan. And sa kontekstong kinakaharap natin ngayon, hangad po namin ang kaligtasan at proteksyon ng bawat isa laban sa COVID-19. Sa sektor ng edukasyon, patuloy po ang implementasyon ng flexible learning ngayong akademikong taon upang masigurado ang kaligtasan ng bawat isa at patuloy na maipadaloy ang mga kaalaman at kakayahan na dapat sanayin at paunlarin sa ating mga mag-aaral. Gayunpaman, patuloy nating pinagsisikapan na maipahatid ang dekalidad na edukasyon upang makamtan ang ating kolektibong hangarin na maipakilala ang Bicol University sa mundo. As we geared towards becoming a world-class university, we continue to commit in delivering quality learning that would lead towards producing leaders and change agents, as well as extend responsive, impactful, and evidence-based extension programs and initiatives for social transformation and development. Well, before we start with our webinar discussion proper, I would like first to share with you the webinar rules for a smooth and organized process. It is important that we are reminded and aware of the following webinar rules. First, ensure that your microphone is muted to avoid unnecessary sounds that may create distractions during the program. Next, register online. Only those who are officially registered to this webinar will be able to receive a certificate of participation, and the said certificate will be sent to your email for at least 1 week after this event. You can also participate via the chat box or comment section. Place your query by typing them in the chat box. If you are on the Zoom site, you can use the chat box to share or express your question or insights. And if you are watching via FB Live, you can write your questions in the comment section. We have with us Professor Kalayaan Triunfante later to moderate the open forum. Also, please refrain from spamming or sending harmful links to this webinar. And lastly, after watching the webinar, please don't forget to fill out our evaluation form. Also, we would like to advertise and request everyone to like the Facebook page of the BU Extension Management Division to see the details and schedules of the upcoming webinars. Marami-rami pong aktibidad ang nakalinya na isasagawa po natin sa mga susunod na linggo at malaking tulong po or malaking bagay yung suportang ipinapakita nyo sa ating online space through sharing EMD posts para mas maraming maabot ang ating mga programa. Our initiatives are geared towards sharing knowledge and skills to different individuals, sectors, and communities. Patuloy ang paghahatid ng kaalaman at serbisyo para sa ating mga partner, beneficiaries, and communities sa gitna ng pandemyang ating kinakaharap ngayon. Thank you very much. The Mandanas ruling, which will be implemented in 2022, is programmed to increase the share of the national government tax revenue transferred to local government units. This policy intends to address inequality and financial resources, improve the capacity, and enhance the principles and practice of transparency and accountability among LGUs in the country. Kinikilala na sa pamamagitan ng Mandanas ruling, hindi lamang pinapalawak at pinadagdagan ang budget at yaman ng lokal na pamahalaan, kundi pinapalakas at pinapatibay ang kakayahan upang maayos na maisagawa ang implementasyon ng devolution o paglipat ng kapangyarihan at pagbibigay ng malawak na awtoridad sa mga LGUs para magampanan ang iba't ibang tungkulin at mapaunlad ang kanilang administratibo at teknikal na kapasidad. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in today's webinar on the implementation of Mandana's ruling and its implications to state universities and colleges, organized by the Office of the Vice President for Administration and Finance, BU Extension Management Division, and Jesse M. Robredo Institute of Governance and Development. As a social institution, our topic is particularly significant as it will have implications to our functions and operations. As we move forward with this activity, we hope that everyone will acquire relevant knowledge and insights that would serve as basis for planning and policy enhancement. As we commence this program, may I invite everyone to put ourselves in holy silence and presence of our Creator for the opening prayer, and this will be followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem through audiovisual presentations.
Almighty, ever-living God, the most merciful and compassionate, we thank you for creation and the life you have given us. Together, we people of diverse religions, spiritual expressions and indigenous traditions, who invoke you by different names, humbly pray for your providence and protection in the midst of the COVID crisis. Strengthen and guide government leaders and private agencies, especially our administrators, faculty and staff, for the wisdom to do what is right and just. Enlighten the minds of students, that despite the educational limitations in this new normal, they may study diligently and effectively. Bless our families, remove our fears, and help us to trust in your love, so that by our example and generosity, we can inspire and help others. Grant all of us, especially the frontliners, good health and accept those who have died in your kingdom. Amen.
Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa manlulupig, di ka pasisili, sa dagat at bundok, sa simoy at sa langit mabaga, ay nilagang tulad, awit sa paglayang minamahal. Bislap ng matawat mo'y tagumpay na naglilinig, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pa may magdidilig. Lupa ng harangan, bakit pagsinta mo'y langit sa piling mo? Aming ligaya na pangay mga pilang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
As we continue with our program, let us listen to one of the most dynamic and strategic administrators of the Bicol University, Dr. Attorney Joseph L. Bartolata, the Vice President for Administration and Finance, for his welcome remarks.
The highly respected Commissioner of Commission on Higher Education, who concurrently acts as chairperson of the Board of Regents and the Board of Trustees of all SUCs in Region 5, Commissioner Aldrin Darilag, the President of BU, who also serves as the PASOK 5 President, Dr. Arnulfo Mascareñas, the Regional Director of NEDA, Regional Office 5, who will serve as one of our resource persons today, Director Agnes Espinas Tolentino. Our speaker from the Department of Budget Management, Regional Office number 5, Ms. February Manuel. The presidents and key officials of all the SUCs in Region 5, the officials of Bicol University, members of the teaching and non-teaching staff, students, other stakeholders, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant day to all. The 1987 Constitution has put emphasis on noble concepts like people empowerment, decentralization, and devolution. That is why the Local Government Code of 1991 was hailed as a landmark legislation designed to concretize measures that will empower the people for inclusive growth. Sadly, while the national government has devolved to the local government units numerous functions, the LGUs have been saddled with fiscal deficiency, and they have been, of course, dependent on the national government for financial support through their internal revenue allotment, or the ERA. This has happened for quite a long time, simply because of the incorrect interpretation of one of the key provisions of the 1987 Constitution, until the Supreme Court in 2019 ruled with finality on what is now popularly known as the Mandanas Doctrine. What is the Mandanas Doctrine? Friends, the Mandanas Doctrine simply means that the just share of LGUs from the national taxes is not limited to national internal revenue taxes collected by the Bureau of Internal Revenue, but includes collections by the Bureau of Customs. This ruling, which entitles local government units to a share of all national taxes and will come into effect in fiscal year 2022, increases the era of all local government units and, in a way, weakens the financial capacity of the national government. This comes at a time when the Philippine economy is in dire straits financially, experiencing the worst economic crisis on record because of the ill effects of the once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. Friends, as officials of the state universities and colleges in Region 5 and as financial managers, this should for sure raise some concerns. That is why BU and PASOK 5 have taken the lead to hold a forum entitled The Implementation of Mandanas Ruling and its Implications to State Universities and Colleges. The foremost question that is in everyone's mind, of course, is, will the paradigm shift in the era sharing of LGUs have an impact on the budget of the SUCs? We hope that the invited resource persons from lead agencies like the Department of Budget Management and NEDA can shed light on this and other related issues. To all of you, my warmest welcome. Thank you very much.
Our warmest gratitude, Attorney Bartolata, for that stimulating and sincere message and for giving us the glimpse and background of the Mandanas ruling. Simula pa lang po tayo, pero nabibigyan na po tayo ng ideya at kaalaman patungkol sa paksang ating tatalakayin. Once again, thank you, Attorney Bartolata. This event would not be possible without the presence of all our participants. Indeed, this event is particularly significant to everyone who desires to become aware and to gain more knowledge about the Mandanas ruling and its implications to the operation of the different public offices and academic institutions, not just here in the Bicol region, but also in the entire country. I believe that our participants gathered today are from different disciplines and sectors. Hence, to know more about the people listening with us today, let's welcome the ever-ardent and committed Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Amelia A. Dorosan.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am honored to present to you the participants as well as the guests for today's webinar on the implementation of the Mandanas ruling and its implication to SUCs. First, we are honored with the presence of our Board of Regents Chair and the Commissioner of the Commission on Higher Education, Dr. Aldrin Darilag. Sir, good afternoon. We also have our board member and the director of NEDA 5, who is our guest speaker this afternoon, Madam Agnes Tolentino. And from the Department of Budget and Management, we have the Budget and Management Specialist of Bicol University, February E. Manuel, and the staff of CHED OCAD. Good afternoon, sirs and ma'am. Of course, we have from Bicol University, our beloved President, Dr. Arnulfo M. Mascareñas, the Vice Presidents, our Deans and Directors of the different units and colleges of Bicol University. And we also would like to introduce to you our participants from the different SUCs, not just in the Bicol region, but as well as in Region 4. We have from Palawan State University, and in Region 5, we have Bicol University, of course, and we have our different units and offices of the Bicol University. From the Partido State University, we have participants from there. And we also have from the Central Bicol State University for Agriculture, CBSUA. And then we have the best M. Scott. Thank you very much. And from the CSPC, Camarines Sur Polytechnic Colleges, we also have participants from Sorsogon State University. And we also have participants from the TESDA Regional Office 5, from the private institution of higher learning, we have the Lewis College. From the Department of Agrarian Reform, DAR, from the Bureau of Fire, BFP, Region 5. We also have participants from the Ligao City LGU. Hopefully other LGUs will join with us this afternoon. And we also would like to mention the participants from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources Office 5, and of course from the Commission on Higher Education Regional Office 5, from the Department of Agriculture Regional Office 5. We also have from the Philippine Coconut Authority. Thank you for joining with us. And from PhilRise, we have participants from PhilRise. We also have from the UST Graduate School participating with us this afternoon, and from the TAP. So with this, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, I am happy to welcome you all in this afternoon's webinar on the implementation of Mandana's ruling and its implication to SUPs and perhaps other agencies of government. Thank you very much, and a wonderful and pleasant afternoon, and keep safe, everyone. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dorosan, and thank you to all our participants for joining us. We hope that you will be with us until the end of our discussion. This webinar has become more significant and extraordinary with the presence of an inspiring leader, a man with commendable, exceptional, and notable accomplishments and achievements in various areas of his personal and professional endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the Chair of the Board of Regents and Board of Trustees of State Universities and Colleges in the Bicol region. Everyone, CHED Commissioner Dr. Aldrin A. Darilag for his message.
Thank you. Dr. Arnulfo Noli M. Mascareñas, the President of Bicol University and PASOK 5, Presidents and key officials of the State Universities and Colleges of Region 5, Director Agnes Espinas Tolentino, the Director of NEDA Regional Office 5, and the Chair of the Board Finance Committee of the 9 SUCs in Bicol, Ms. February E. Manuel, OIC Chief Budget and Management Specialist, and our speaker in today's webinar, presidents of the various higher education institutions of Region 5, vice presidents, deans, directors, faculty members, and non-teaching staff, students, and stakeholders of Bicol University, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Let me convey my support to the entire BUenyo community in the celebration of your 52nd founding anniversary with the theme, BU at 52, continuing the tradition of quality education amidst the pandemic. This initiative is grounded on the 4 pillars of the university: scholarship, leadership, character, and service. I express my commendations to President Noli Mascarenhas and his reliable team of experts who remain true to the commitment of guaranteeing quality and accessible tertiary education to all learners, despite the unprecedented challenges posed by the new normal. This is an affirmation of BU's role as a trailblazer of Philippine higher education in the Bicol region, in which service to the people transcends geographical boundaries and political divisions. True to its mandate of extension responsive to the needs of the community and its constituents, today's webinar entitled The Implementation of the Mandanas Ruling and its Implication to State Universities and Colleges aims to look at the bigger picture on how the landmark case of Mandanas Garcia versus the Executive Secretary will impact the future of state universities and colleges come fiscal year 2022. This webinar is an opportune time to all individuals in attendance to learn from our invited experts. As early as the first quarter board meetings of the 23 SUCs under my chairpersonship, I have already raised the possibilities that the Mandanas ruling may imply on the fiscal viability for higher education institutions. Generally speaking, the Supreme Court has ruled in the Mandanas Garcia case that the share from the internal revenue allotment of the local government units does not exclude other national taxes like custom duties. The exclusion of other national taxes like customs duties from the base for determining the just share of the LGUs contravened the express constitutional edict in Section 6, Article 10 of the 1987 Constitution. With this, the Supreme Court ruled that the national taxes that will be included in the base computation of the internal revenue allotment of LGUs should now include the following. First, the national internal revenue taxes enumerated in Section 21 of the National Internal Revenue Code as amended to be inclusive of the VAT, excise taxes, and documentary stamp taxes collected by the Bureau of Internal Revenue and the Bureau of Customs and their deputized agents. Second, tariffs and custom duties collected by the Bureau of Customs. Third, 50% of the value-added taxes or VAT collected in the BARM and 30% of all other national taxes collected in the said region. Fourth, the 60% of the national taxes collected from the exploitation and development of the national wealth. We have the 85% of the excise taxes collected from locally manufactured Virginia and other tobacco products. Six, the entire 50% of the national taxes collected under Sections 106, 108, and 116 of the National Internal Revenue Code, and 5% of the franchise taxes in favor of the national government paid by franchise holders. And these include Manila Jockey Club Incorporated and Philippine Racing Club Incorporated, in accordance with Section 6 of RA 6631 and Section 8 of RA 6632, respectively. This is indeed a pleasant news to all our LGUs and a positive development for the federalism movement in the country. Mr. N. Diame Diop, World Bank Country Director for the Philippines, he said that he looks at the implementation of the Mandanas ruling not just as a transfer of resources, but an opportunity to strengthen decentralization and improve social service delivery in the Philippines. He further said that if this ruling leads to better coordination in planning and implementation across levels of government, taking into account the capacity and needs of LGUs, it could improve the lives of people and communities, especially those far from countries' economic growth centers. Locally, the same could be said among our experts in the Philippines. According to Professor Sherman Cruz, Vice President of the Philippine Futures Thinking Society, the implementations of the Mandanas ruling in giving local government units more power to govern autonomously is simulating the possibility to the shift towards federalism without having to change the system of government under the 1987 Philippine Constitution. However, a pragmatic approach on the issue appears that the Mandanas ruling has negatively impacted the SUKs in Region 5 if we are to look at the 2022 National Expenditure Program. The 9 SUKs in Bicol has a total amount of 4,301,902,000 pesos from the 2021 GAA. However, the SUKs were only given an amount of 3,614,669,000 pesos in the 2022 NEP, which is a cumulative decrease of almost 16%. In terms of capital outlay for BU, it had an 84% decrease in its budget, as the 2022 NEP allocated a meager 32,922,000 pesos only, from that of the more than 200 million pesos funding from this year's GAA. One possible remedy to this is applying in a localized manner the proposed options for ensuring fiscal sustainability while complying with the SC ruling on the Mandanas Garcia IRA petitions of the Philippine Institute of Development Studies to the Philippine national government, which are as follows. First, the national government may look for new revenue measures that will increase national government revenue by another 0.9% of gross domestic product in 2022. Second, the national government may increase its fiscal deficit target by 0.9% in GDP yearly. And third, the national government may cut back on national government spending on its own account in order to create fiscal space for the additional 225.3 billion LGU share in national taxes that is required under the final SC ruling on the Mandanas Garcia IRA petitions. On the other hand, as I have recommended to all the 23 SUKs I chair, now is the most viable moment to cultivate your relationships with your respective local government units. May it be in the barangay, municipal, city, provincial, or regional level. With their increased fiscal space, the LGUs now have more monetary resources and capability to provide the necessary support to its constituents And what better way to facilitate such meaningful and noble mandate than through the reliable, consistent, and efficient assistance of our state universities and colleges. For example, one avenue of a strong and dynamic SUC-LGU partnership could be the Study in the Philippines Education Tourism Program, or the Study PH Edu-Tourism Initiative of the Commission on Higher Education, with the support of the Department of Tourism. Under the Study PH program, grantees are selected from areas identified as priority tourism areas under the National Tourism Development Plan 2016-2022 and Tourism Regional Strategic Action Plan, with a view towards the core principle of localization of education, taking advantage of the existing regional development efforts to integrate local, cultural, indigenous, and heritage products and practices within the wider global context. The Study PH Edu Tourism Program is CHED's international competitiveness building program for SUCs that will promote collaborations among stakeholders and the convergence of the academe, diverse communities, local government units, and small and medium enterprises around the Philippines to support the revitalization of the country's economy and tourism industry. In view of the Mandanas ruling's effect, LGUs are now given extra fiscal latitude to support these pioneer initiatives that link up the resources and manpower of both the LGU and SUC towards the attainment of mutually inclusive and development goals for the community and its people. As the chairperson of the Bicol University Board of Regents and the other 8 SUC governing boards in the region, I give my support to all the initiatives, projects, and programs that will capitalize on forging sustainable linkages with our LGU partners. This is an assertion of the Commission that indeed tertiary education must espouse the notions, procedures, and processes of 21st century learning. Hence, the challenge to the 9 Bicol SUCs is to ensure that they become models of innovation and futures thinking as the world continues to adapt with the effects of the new normal under the 4th and the 5th industrial revolutions. Diyos mabalos marhay na hapon sa Indogabos.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Dr. Darilag, for highlighting the salient features and provisions of Mandanas ruling, as well as for emphasizing to view at the bigger lens on how the landmark case of Mandanas Garcia ruling will impact the future of various state universities and colleges. We have been provided already of some significant implications of the said policy to our functions and operations as academic institutions. Indeed, your words, ideas, and insights, sir, continue to stimulate the minds and fuel the passion of the higher academic institutions to soar and achieve sustained excellence in the education landscape, despite the various factors and challenges. Our warmest gratitude, sir, for gracing us with your presence. And I think before we proceed with our program, gusto lamang din po naming magkaroon ng pagkakataon na makakuha po ng picture with you. Everyone, lahat po ng nasa ating Zoom, let's open our camera po to have a photo opportunity with our SUD Commissioner, Dr. Darilag. Thank you very much. I request the technical committee to facilitate and I think give us a cue. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, please ready your cameras. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Another one po. 1, 2, 3. Okay na po. Thank you.
Once again, maraming pong salamat, Said Commissioner and the Chair of the BOR and BOT of State Universities and Colleges in the Bicol Region. Maraming pong salamat. The university has maintained its academic excellence through the leadership of exemplary people who have immensely dedicated their hearts and minds for the development of the Bicol University. 52 years of producing globally competitive graduates, 52 years of contributing social change and development to the Bicol region and to our nation. For several years, a visionary man rich with ideals, profound wisdom, and innovative ideas has been leading our academic institution to becoming a world-class university. Everyone, let's welcome and hear the message of our beloved University President, Dr. Arnulfo M. Mascareñas. Okay, we'll be hearing the message of our dear University President later. Economic experts, social development specialists, and local leaders recognize that Mandana's ruling can lead to an improved coordination in planning and better implementation of various programs, projects, and services across levels of government, taking into account the capacities and needs of local government units. Considering that the local governments are on the ground and can directly feel the people's needs and aspirations, decentralization encourages prompt responses and better matching of government services to local needs, making governance more inclusive, accountable, and responsive. As we reach the actual discussion on the said topic, our speaker will enlighten us about its salient features, concepts, principles, and processes, highlighting their implications to the operations of state universities and colleges. To introduce our key speaker, let's welcome the Director of BU Business Affairs Office and the faculty member of the BU Jesse M. Robredo Institute of Local Governance and Development, the ever-engaged Dr. Viola L. Amano for the introduction of speaker.
The Chairman of the Board of Regents, Head Commissioner Aldrin Darilag, to the Regional Director of NEDA, Director Agnes Tolentino, to our beloved President, Dr. Arnulfo Mascareñas, Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Amelia Durosan, Vice President for Administration and Finance, Dr. Attorney Joseph Patulata, to the other Vice Presidents, to the Deans and Directors, students, ladies and gentlemen, guests, isang makabuluhang hapon sa inyo. Marhay na hapon. It is a pleasure and honor to introduce to you our resource speaker this afternoon. She has been close to us in the BU Business Affairs Office when we offered the series of trainings on public financial management. She has been our resource speaker in the different cycles of the training, in the foundation track, and budgeting and performance track. Her name is February because she was born on February 14, and we fondly call her Feb. She is still single, but I'm not sure if negotiable. That is for you to find out. She is a certified public accountant and rose from the ranks in the Department of Budget and Management Regional Office 5. She started as an administrative assistant, then became the budget and management analyst, and a year later, promoted to accountant 3. Presently, she is the supervising budget and management specialist and the officer in charge. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Miss February Manuel.
Thank you, Ma'am Viola. It's good to see your face after a long while. As Ma'am Viola mentioned, I am always invited as a resource speaker for the PFMCP program of the Bicol University. So before I begin, I would like to take this opportunity to, of course, express my appreciation and gratitude to Attorney Joseph Martolata and, of course, President Arnulfo Mascareñas for giving me this chance to share with you the salient features of the Mandanas-Garcia case, as well as the subsequently issued Executive Order number 138. So allow me to share my slide, please. So before, as a start, so what is the Mandanas-Garcia ruling? Basically, I cannot tell you the whole story behind this because if I dwell on that, I think mauubos yung buong foundation week just on the discussion. Anyway, as a glimpse, or to put it in simple terms, Petitioner Congressman Hermeliano I. Mandanas et al. And Honorable Enrique T. Garcia Jr., a lone petitioner, challenged the matter or the manner in which the just share of the national taxes of the local government units were computed. I highlight po Mandanas Garcia ruling kasi as mentioned po kanina, it is popularly known as the Mandanas ruling. However, it is important to note po that Honorable Enrique T. Garcia has a big role in this petition. So we always refer to it as the Mandanas Garcia ruling. Yeah. So basically, they questioned the constitutionality of the provisions of the Local Government Code or RA 7160, specifically Section 284. Section 284 of the RA provides that the local government unit shall have a share in the national internal revenue taxes based on the collection of the third fiscal year preceding the current fiscal year. However, they questioned its constitutionality because, according to Section 6, as already discussed by our commissioner, the local government units shall have a just share as determined by law in the national taxes. So there is a question of where the term internal revenue was derived from. So national taxes, which shall be automatically released to them. So as a result of this, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Honorable Mandanas and Honorable Garcia and declared the following. First, they declared that the phrase internal revenue appearing in Section 284 of the Local Government Code as unconstitutional and deletes the phrase from the said section. Likewise, the phrase internal revenue is deleted from the related sections of the Local Government Code, specifically sections 285, 287, and 290. And finally, the Supreme Court ruled that all collections of the national taxes, as previously mentioned again, shall be included in the computation of the base and just share of the local government units according to the ration provided in the now modified Section 284 of the Local Government Code, except those accruing to special purpose funds and special allotments for the utilization and development of national wealth. So to put it in a figure, previously, before the Mandanas ruling, the national government agencies were able to tap on the external collections or external in national collections purely. However, after the Mandanas ruling, the local government units now has a share in both the internal and the external revenue. To put figures in the picture, for the 5-year actual NTA era, then era, now NTA na po siya. Dati po, tawag sa kanya is internal revenue allocation or allotment. Ngayon po, since it is now a share for the total national taxes, so national tax allocation na ang tawag sa kanya. So there is an increase of 10% from the era of 2019 to 2018, 13% from the era of 2020 to 2029, and 2021 to 2020, there was an increase of 7%. So average for the 4 years, there was an average increase of 10%. However, with the implementation of the Mandanas-Garcia ruling, there was a 38% increase from the era of last year versus the NTA of next year of FY 2022. So from an average of 50 billion increase for the internal revenue allotment share, there is now a 200 more or less a 260 to 270 billion increase in the available resources to the local government. So ganun po kalaki yung effect niya. So in view of this, since tumaas ang capacity ng local government, it was decided by the Office of the President through the issuance of Executive Order number 138 to now fully devolve certain functions of the executive branch to the local government units. This was also supported by its implementing rules and regulation dated June 1, 2021. So this EO and its IRR covers all agencies, departments, agencies, and instrumentalities of the executive branch with devolved functions. So highlight po with devolved functions to local government units under the Local Government Code and other pertinent laws. Basically, these are functions, basic services, and facilities which have already been devolved previously based on Section 17 of the Local Government Code and other pertinent laws. So parang the executive order just now mandates the full devolution of the services which have already been devolved before by virtue of the Local Government Code. So in Section 17 po of the Local Government Code, nandun yung mga services that are to be provided by the local government. So with this EO, yung mga services na should be provided by the local government na sa national government pa rin ang nag-i-implement, more or less, fully transfer or devolve na po siya. So the local governments shall be primarily and ultimately responsible and accountable for the provision of all basic services and facilities fully devolved to them in accordance with the minimum standards for service delivery prescribed by the national government, except those to be shared with the national government. So mamaya po we will discuss on that further. So as mentioned by our very energetic MC, I will be discussing the salient features of the executive order. So there are basically 7 salient features. However, I would like to apologize kasi dito parang 6 lang yung na-feature dito sa summary slide. So the first salient feature is the delineation of the national government and LGU roles, the preparation of the devolution transition plans, creation of the Committee on Devolution, establishment of the Growth Equity Fund, capacity building for LGUs, roles of LGUs, strengthening of planning, investment programming, and budget linkage, and monitoring and evaluation systems, options for affected NGA personnel, and the last one is the roles of the civil society organizations, so CSOs. So the EO provides a guiding principle in the determination of the role of the national government agencies and of the way to determine what activities will be developed. So first, the national government's role is to set the national policy. So the national government will now transition from a rowing or an actor position or an implementer to a steering position. So we will just set the national policy, develop the strategy, and of course, provide the service delivery standards and assist and oversee and supervise the local government. So from a rowing to a steering function. Yun na po ang direction ng mga national government agencies. Next, the devolution of basic services and facilities to local government units and determination of functional assignments between and among the different levels of government. So the national government is tasked through their DTPs to determine to which level of government should these functions, services, and PPAs be devolved to. So here is a sample po of the annex of the IRR. So the national government shall determine if their PPAs will be devolved to the province, municipalities, or barangays based on the capacity capabilities of the local government and taking into account the following principles. If there are spillovers, so if there are little or no spillovers, I think that is best administered by lower levels of government. However, if it involves greater economies of scale, it is best assigned to higher levels of government. And of course, the functions related to the redistributive role of the government should be assigned to the national government. So there is still a determination to what level of governance. Hindi naman po porket sinabi, devolve lahat. Talagang bibigay na ano. So i-determine pa rin po kung there is a portion that will be retained by the national government, especially in the provision of services for the lower class LGUs. So yun po. So third, national government in close coordination with local governments shall formulate and pursue an institutional development program to strengthen LGU capacities and capabilities. As I've mentioned, the national government now will have a bigger role in the steering or assisting in the implementation of the devolved functions by the local government units. So we need to have a close coordination with local governments to know what the capacity building activities or requirements they need from us so that we can assist them. And fourth, any ambiguity as to the interpretation of power granted to LGU shall be resolved and interpreted in favor of the devolution. The functions, services, and facilities shall be fully devolved from the national government to the local government units not later than the end of 2024. So there is a 3-year transition period to ensure that there are a smooth transition para po hindi naman yan bibiglain. So we give time for the transition. So 3 years po ang devolution transition period. So the second salient feature is the preparation of the devolution transition plans. So both the national government agencies as well as the local government units will be preparing their own devolution transition plans. Both are guided by separate joint circular for local government units. It is guided by joint circular DBM-DILG joint circular number 2021-1. Well, for national government agencies, it is guided. They are guided by Joint Circular 2021-2. So, what are its contents? For the National Government Transition Plan, it shall contain an identification of the devolved functions. So what specific functions will be devolved? Will they be devolving to the local government? And the services and phasing off, or so when will it be devolved in the 3-year term, and strategy for the devolution. So how will it be devolved? So the DTP of the national government should contain clearly the following elements and components. So next, it shall contain the definition of service delivery standards. So the national government agencies who are currently performing the devolved functions shall set the minimum service delivery standards to ensure uniformity in the implementation of the devolved services. Next, capacity development strategies for local government units and NGAs. So this is to ensure, as I've mentioned previously, that the capacity needs of the local government will be fully complemented by the national government agencies. And of course, to strengthen the capacity development of the national government employees who will be conducting the monitoring and steering functions for this devolved services. Next is the DTP shall also contain the framework for monitoring and performance assessments. So what will be the SIs, the success indicators? What will be the target outcomes and outputs? So that is a means to measure whether the devolution activities are indeed successful. And of course, the organizational effectiveness proposal. So this is what the agency will look like after the devolution. So will there be a growth in a number of personnel staff in the monitoring division? Will there be an abolition of certain divisions and or organizational units due to their functions being fully devolved? So yan po yung inclusions in the DTP. Next will be the local government unit devolution transition plan. So the LGU DTPs shall be prepared in close coordination with pertinent agencies, national government agencies. Syempre po, since this will be a devolution of services, they should be able to be aware. So they should be knowledgeable of what will be the services that will be devolved. And of course, LGU DTPs is to serve as a guide in the monitoring and performance assessment of the local government units by the NGAs concerned, DBM and DILG. For now po, since the DTPs of both the national and local government are basically being prepared simultaneously, we continuously encourage national government agencies, those with devolved functions, to have a constant and consistent coordination, to have a proactive approach in the preparation of the LGU DTPs so that they may be capacitated in its preparation. The next salient feature is the creation of the Committee on Devolution. So the COMDEV is composed, so this is the National COMDEV. It is composed of the Secretary of Budget and Management as its chairperson, the Secretary of the Internal and Local Government as co-chairperson, Executive Secretary, Secretaries of Socioeconomic Planning, Finance, and Presidents of Leagues of Provinces, Cities, Municipalities of the Philippines, Liga ng mga Barangay sa Pilipinas, and Union of Local Authorities in the Philippines as members. So the COMDEV shall designate a senior official to act as permanent representative and shall be responsible for overseeing the overall efforts on the implementation of the executive order. So their function first, of course, is to oversee. So dapat knowledgeable sila on what is the status of the implementation of the devolution. Oversee and monitor the implementation of administrative and fiscal decentralization goals. Evaluate the status and monitor the implementation of DTPs to ensure compliance. Resolve issues and concerns that may arise. So if at the regional level hindi na po masagot yung mga issues and concerns na brought up, this will be forwarded to the National ComDev for their resolution. Ensure the elimination of any regulatory or fiscal controls on the automatic release of LGU shares on national taxes. So ito po, it's highlighted kasi parang there was a question before na this EO daw is controlling the release. No, it is not. Like the IRA po, the Internal Revenue Allotment, the NTAs, the National Tax Allocation, will be automatically released to the local government units come January. So wala pong control on its release. This will be automatically released like the IRA. And of course, adopt mechanisms to ensure continuous delivery of public services during the transition period to full devolution. Next, its function is to develop a strong communications plan and pursue strategies to effectively inform the public, issue rules and regulations for the effective implementation of the EO, submit a report on the implementation of the EO to the Office of the President, and call on any relevant office of the executive branch for fulfillment of functions and ensure convergence on the devolution program. Likewise, there is a call for the creation of the regional subcommittees on the devolution. So the regional ComDev. The regional ComDev is constituted as a special committee in the RDC. For Region 5 po, we had a meeting just this Wednesday on the status of activities. Its member shall be determined by the RDC. Its members are, like the National ComDev, the DBM Regional Director, so our director po as chairperson, the DILG Regional Director as co-chairperson, NEDA, its members are NEDA Regional Director, Director Agnes, DOF-BLGF Regional Director, and of course the regional offices of the national government agencies, and representative of the local government unit leagues. So meron na pong representative for the provinces, municipalities, and cities as members. Likewise po, for Region 5, this is for Region 5, although it's not mandated here, we encourage the participation of CSOs, our PSR representatives or public sector representatives, so that they can have their inputs on the decision, on the implementation of the devolution. So the regional ComDevs shall report to the RDC on a quarterly basis, synchronized with the submission of the quarterly accomplishment reports to the ComDev. The DBMRO shall serve as the regional ComDev secretariat, so kami po yun, to provide technical and administrative support to the said committee. So our functions is to cascade the policies and guidelines of the ComDev, determine issues and concerns, challenges, and information gaps at the sub-national level, act on region-specific or local level issues and concerns, challenges, and information gaps, elevate to the ComDev, yung sinabi ko po kanina, if hindi na kaya sa level ng regional, we will elevate it to the ComDev for their resolution, and strengthen coordination between national government agencies and LGUs to facilitate smooth transition to full devolution. Likewise, we are tasked to monitor and assess implementation of DTPs of the NGAs concerned and the LGUs in the region, to submit the reports and perform other functions as may be assigned by the ComDev, and of course, regularly meet. So the law provides that there shall be a quarterly meeting. However, the regional ComDev may meet as often as necessary in the performance of its functions. So another salient feature of the executive order is the establishment of the Growth Equity Fund. So para saan po ba ang Growth Equity Fund? This is established to address the problems of marginalization, inequality, or unequal development, and high poverty incidents across the different LGUs. I think it is common knowledge that there are certain LGUs na hindi pa talaga kayang to implement by themselves the devolution activities, some of the devolution activities. So this was proposed in the NEP 2022 budget, and for 2022, the amount of 10 billion pesos is appropriated to assist in the development of the marginalized LGUs. The next salient feature is the capacity development for LGUs. So this is formulated based on the DILG-LJ. Actually, the capacity development agenda is part of the DTPs of the local government units. So this is where they will identify what capacity activities they need in order for them to be able to effectively implement the devolved functions and PPAs. And it is guided by the strategies identified by the national government agencies. As a counterpart, the national government agencies need to prepare their capacity development strategy, which they will use in the capacity development of the local government units. So the next salient feature is the role of the local government. Of course, as I have repeatedly mentioned, the local government units are expected to prepare all local government units, including barangays, are expected to prepare the LGU devolution transition plan. They are also expected to prepare their capacity development agenda, and of course, development of communications plan and strategy. Sorry. Naano ako kasi akala ko may question. Anyway, so those are the roles. The next salient feature is the strengthening of planning, investment programming, and budgeting linkage and monitoring and evaluation systems. So there should still be a way to ensure the vertical and horizontal linkages across the different levels of government, the national, even between the national and local government units, in terms of its programs, alignment of its programs and projects to the priorities of the government. So the DILG, DOF, NED, and DBM shall update existing circulars and agency policies in the harmonization of local planning. For the side po ng DBM, we are currently updating the budget operations manual, which is being used by the local government units. So that will be issued sometime this year or next year po. And of course, results-based monitoring and evaluation systems shall be in place and strengthened to ensure purposive conduct of evaluations in the performance and delivery of the devolved functions and services. This is the second to the last salient feature. These are the options for the affected personnel. I would just like to clarify that there will be no forced retirement or separations to those affected employees of the national government agencies, even if their divisions will be severely affected. So the operations of their divisions will be severely affected by the devolution. They will still not be forced to retire or separate from the service. However, they are given this option. So this will be at the option of the personnel. First is transfer to other units within the agency. So if pwede po sila mag-transfer sa ibang divisions nila, sa ibang operating units under their agency. Next is transfer to other agencies within the executive branch. So the implementing guidelines or the specific guidelines for this will be issued through a joint circular by the DBM and DILG. Although as of now, it is for comments and approval of the principals of the two national government agencies. And the last option for the affected personnel is to retire or separate from the service. Again, at the option of the personnel. If they choose this option, they will be given retirement gratuity and separation benefits. However, if they again opt to choose this option, they will be restricted from re-entering any branch of the executive office for a period of 5 years. However, given their expertise and their capabilities on the matters that are on the functions devolved, they may be given preference to vacant positions in the local government units. However, we respect the autonomy of the local government units. Thus, if the affected personnel who separated from the national government opts to apply to a vacant position in the local government, it shall be treated as a new application and shall be covered by the existing procedures, hiring procedures of the local government unit concerned. So the actions available for the national government agencies of the different PPA, abolish yung PPAs affected by the devolution. So pwede kasing scale down lang siya to a margin na to support lang dun na sa mga marginalized or yung mga medyo nasa poverty incidents pang mga local government units, specifically those in the 5th or 6th class LGU. There could be phasing out, so gradual elimination of the PPAs. Kunyari, for 2022, the agency opted to devolve a certain percentage, let's say only 25% of the PPA. For 2023, they opted to devolve 50 to 75%, and so on so forth until it is abolished in their in the PPAs of their office. Next is abolition, so the elimination or discontinuance of the function, and of course strengthening. Since the national government agencies are now required to put more emphasis in their monitoring and steering function, there is a need to strengthen the capabilities of these offices or these divisions in the office or these PPAs. Next will be in terms of organization. The NGAs may opt to abolish obsolete or unnecessary organizational units. So if the function of the OU or organizational unit is totally devolved to the local government, the agencies may abolish that organizational unit. Next is deactivation. So making an organizational unit dormant or non-operational by phasing out of its function. So medyo counterpart siya nung phasing out kanina. And merger, the combination of two or more organizational units where the identity of one is retained and the other is abolished or deactivated. So pwedeng emerge yung mga OUs. And consolidation, the dissolution of two or more organizational units to form a new one. As to its personnel positions, the national governments may choose to abolish. So if the affected personnel chose to resign or separate from the function, the position that they held would automatically be abolished. Next is transfer. So if they opt to transfer, reclassify, conversion, retitling, and of course creation. However, in creating new positions, it must observe the scrap and build policy where new positions may be proposed as long as there are corresponding or obsolete and necessary. So if it may abolish, pwedeng may i-create na position. And lastly, this is the last salient feature of the EO. The role of the civil society organization. As I've mentioned po, for the regional ComDev, we highly encouraged, we actually invited CSO participation, so PSR participation. So they are now a regular member of the regional ComDev. So NGAs and LGUs shall recognize NGOs, CSOPOs as active partners in pursuit of local autonomy, particularly but not limited to the following. So they may provide feedback on the PAPs of the government. They may push for various advocacies and initiatives. They may formulate plans, policies, and issuance, and implementing capacity development programs and other activities. It is also worth noting that in since the local government units are also required to form their own devolution committee, and one of the regular members are the civil society organization. So this will ensure the participation of the CSOs, the PSRs in the development, in the implementation of the devolution of the functions. So CSOs shall not be limited to registered accredited CSOs by their respective NGAs or to the members of the local special bodies in the respective local government units. So the next steps or ways forwards for the NGAs and LGUs is, of course, the conduct of inception workshops with LGUs. So this is to help them in the preparation of the DTPs. This is led by the DLG. Implementation of communications plan and strategy. That's why I'm again thankful for the invitation, since this is a way for us to communicate the what is happening in the government, which is part of the communication plans and strategy of the national government. Development of framework for performance assessment of devolved functions, strengthening capacities of NGAs in monitoring and coaching functions, and capacity building activities for LGUs through LGA, DPBLGF, and national government agencies. Yung sa ano po, its effect, the effect of the Mandanas-Garcia ruling and the EO 138 to the SUCs, basically, although indirectly, its effect is, wait, I'll just stop sharing muna. So, although indirectly, it is affected kasi medyo lumiit nga po yung share na pwedeng paghatian ng national and SUCs, national government and SUCs and GOCCs. For this year, particularly na feel po natin siya kasi sumabay po yung Mandanas at yung COVID natin. The COVID in itself greatly reduced the income collections of the national government. So this pushed for the strategic prioritization by the DBCC. So yun po yung naging priorities of the national government. Specifically for FY 2022, the priority programs, of course, were the vaccination program or the booster shot, NGA assistance to disadvantaged LGUs, yung growth equity fund po na I presented kanina, the establishment of the Virology, Science and Technology Institute of the Philippines, family planning, nutrition, and the national identification system, and interagency integration. Yan po. So yun po yung naging set na priorities for FY 2022. As on the upside po, given the recent devolution, and the increase in the financial capacity of the LGUs, they are now able to invest in more devolved activities. On the side of the SUCs, I guess as mentioned po ni Commissioner kanina, the SUCs may venture more into research on this particular instances, and of course, look into more collaborative activities with local government units. Like BU po, for instance, through the PFMCP, they are constantly providing, which for the information of the body, the PFMCP is now evolving to an online platform. So magiging continuous pa rin po siya. So pwede pong gawin din yan ng mga local SUCs na they engage in more capacity development activities, not only for the national government agencies, but also for the local government units. So I guess that is the end of my presentation po. And thank you very much for listening. I hope that you learned something new. And of course, happy 52nd founding anniversary po for BU. So thank you very much po.
What a comprehensive and significant discussion, Ma'am February, from a person who has an established experiences in the field of planning and policy development. We are indeed thankful to learn the salient features of the Mandanas-Garcia ruling and how it will affect the operations of various public organizations and offices, including the academic institutions like the Bicol University. Though its full implementation will commence in the year 2020 and we cannot see yet the impact of the different changes, especially with the implementation of local programs and projects, as well as on the delivery of social welfare services. But one thing is certain, since it is about to begin next year, it is imperative that we know the things that we have discussed, ma'am, in order to anticipate its implications and utilize them in the overall planning, management, and implementation to our own fields and professional spaces. Thank you very much once again, Ma'am February. Later, makakasama muli natin si Ma'am February upang matugunan ang iba't ibang katanungan at paglilinaw po ng mga kalahok patungkol sa ating paksa during our open forum. But before that, before our open forum, we will first listen to the message of our dear President. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, a visionary man, an exceptional administrator, and an innovative leader. Let's welcome our beloved University President, Dr. Arnulfo M. Mascareñas.
So thank you very much, Angel. Luckily, I am now able to get through after several tries. I really have a very weak signal right now here. But thank God I was able to get through. First, I'd like to thank our resource speakers, February Manuel, and of course, Director Agnes Tolentino, for accepting our request to be one of the resource speakers in today's forum. My thanks also goes to Dr. Alden Darilag. Although he's very busy, he found time to join us. As a matter of fact, we just come from a budget hearing with Senator Pia Cayetano. And I believe right after we finished with our budget hearing, Dr. Darilag immediately proceeded to this webinar. And of course, I'd like to thank Joseph Bartolata for organizing this very timely forum, and to the faculty members and staff, and to the participants of coming from the different SUCs in the region. Thank you for taking your time out to take part in this very relevant forum. If you can recall, at the start of our planning workshop 2 weeks ago, I emphasized the effect of Mandanas-Garcia ruling insofar as our budget for 2022 is concerned, because based on my literature review, around 529 billion pesos for next year's budget would be given back to the LGU to reimburse the amount which the national government failed to give them. So I was saying that because of this Mandanas ruling, this would have a very grave implication insofar as budget of the SUC is concerned, because our budget comes from the national government. And with the Mandanas ruling, definitely the slice of the pie will become smaller, especially for the LGUs. Just this morning, during our budget hearing, the data presented to us by CHED, the chairperson, and by our PASOK president was so lamenting because for SUCS alone for 2022, 75 SUCs have a 75 SUCs don't have their budget allocation for capital outlay. And not only that, 36 SUCs have barely budget allocation for capital outlay, and that includes Bicol University. And also, aside from capital outlay, the budget of the SUCs, the whole SUCs in the Philippines for MOE has been reduced. So definitely, we could attribute this to the Mandanas ruling, which, according to literature, a huge chunk of budget will be used to reimburse the LGU IRA. But I would also look at this as an opportunity for the SUCs in the country and in the Bicol region in particular to take advantage of. As mentioned a while ago by Dr. Darilag, now is the time for SUCs to work very closely with the LGUs, particularly the provincial governments and the municipal governments where the SUCs are located. And also, it could be a good opportunity for our faculty members to become involved in all these undertakings related to devolution. Like, for instance, over the past several months, we've been engaging our Robredo Institute faculty members as part of the resource pool of the DILG. And I see that maybe in the years to come, many of our faculty members will be engaged in the operation, in the planning operation of the LGU. So I would say that although for 2022 and beyond, we may not expect a huge budget for the SUCs, but there could be other opportunities that we can harness out of this ruling. So again, thank you very much for attending this forum, because we all need to know the implications of this Mandanas ruling, not only for our university, but insofar as the individual faculty members and the personnel concerned. So again, thank you very much, and good afternoon once again.
Our sincerest thanks, Dr. Noli, for that steering discourse and its insightful message. Your leadership, sir, continue to inspire us to attain our vision of becoming a world-class university despite the ongoing challenges, concerns, and factors affecting our operations. Binigyang diin ni President Noli ang kahalagahan na magkaroon ng mas matibay na koneksyon at suporta sa ating mga stakeholders upang patuloy na maisakatuparan natin yung ating layunin bilang isang academic institution. Thank you very much once again, President Noli. We are also graced by the presence of a leader and administrator of the country's leading organization for social and economic planning, and greatly regarded as the premier body in macroeconomic forecasting, research, and policy analysis in the Bicol region. Friends, the Regional Director of the National Economic Development Authority, Region 5, and a member of the Board of Regents and Board of Trustees in SUCs in Bicol. Let's welcome Director Agnes Espinas Tolentino as she shares valuable inputs about our topic.
Thank you, Sir Angelo. May I be allowed to share my screen, please? So again, let me greet everyone. Good afternoon, especially to Commissioner Algin Darilag, and of course to President Noli Mascarenhas and all the other key officials of state universities and colleges joining us for this afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you my thoughts on the implications of the Mandanas-Garcia ruling on the state universities and colleges. Now, the first time that that I was asked by Attorney Bartolata about this, to present this. I said I would have wanted to beg off, but because it's the SUC, you know. Well, of course, as the member of the board of the SUCs, I wouldn't want to miss this, despite other activities that are also going on right now. But anyway, I would like to just point out, no? But I guess most of what I will be saying this afternoon has been covered, no? Has been mentioned as well by our Commissioner Aldrin Darilag, and of course mentioned earlier by Ms. Manuel, and also again emphasized by Pres Noli. But nonetheless, since this is my task for this afternoon, I think repetition would make it more memorable for everybody. So, you know, just to say that what is really the intent of the Mandanas-Garcia ruling when this was issued was for a just share on the internal revenue allotment. So you've heard this already from Ms. Manuel earlier, but again, let me say that. And when we talk about having a just share, no, just share meaning for them to get what they ought to get, because previously they've been saying that when all the functions have been devolved to them, it didn't come with the cash, no, na-devolve lang daw yung trabaho pero hindi kasama yung pera. And now they are really hoping that there would be the true devolution that they really wanted to have. Okay. Now, the mention of EO 138 series of 2021 was done also by Ms. Manuel earlier. But for this, I'd like to focus on the policy. No? The policy here, it says that the national government is fully committed to the policy of decentralization enshrined in the Constitution and other relevant laws. So what are the laws, these relevant laws really aiming at? I'd like you to look at this, no, to really take note of this, because this is where the SUCs could also come in if they would want to take part or meaningful part in this exercise of devolution of functions and services to the local government unit. So it says here that first need to develop the capabilities of local government units to deliver basic social services and critical facilities to their constituents, increase productivity and employment, and promote local economic growth. Developing the capabilities, this is where you would later come in. I'll be discussing more of that later. Okay, on number 2, it says that ensuring accountability, competence, professionalism, and transparency of local leaders through the development of institutional systems that uphold good governance and strengthen their capacities for managing public resources. What is very important here is the accountability and developing good governance so that they would have to manage public resources efficiently. As mentioned earlier, we've heard it from President Mascarenhas, was saying that, well, actually the pie did not grow bigger, but because of the slice that the bigger slice that went to the LGUs, it had a substantial impact on the availability of fiscal resources to other branches of the government, no, that are also relying on the public coffers, and this include the state universities and colleges. So short of saying, when we look at the Mandanas-Garcia ruling, this would mean the full devolution of certain functions of executive branch. If you really are interested in looking at what are those services and functions that have been devolved, you could look at the section 17. This was also shown earlier by Ms. Manuel in the Annex A. But if you'd like to review that for your during your own time, you could as well visit the section 17 of the Local Government Code. So the question really here is higher education devolved? Well, of course, you know the answer by now, but after you've heard the messages from the previous speakers, you would know that it's not devolved. But the question is, would it have an impact on your budget? As Commissioner Darilag mentioned earlier, definitely this would lead to a decrease in the allocation of fiscal resources or on the budget of the state universities and colleges. He has shown you earlier the figures now for around 4 trillion down to 3 trillion. So that's really very, very significant. And the same could be expected now once, or in 2022, once we have the implementation of the Mandanas ruling. But of course, this is not, this shouldn't stop us, because we know that we have to continue to provide for the services or the education that's needed for our constituents or for our beneficiaries. Okay, so you would see on my screen now what are some of the implications. As I said earlier, the budget could substantially decrease because we're all taking it from the GEA. However, of course the budget will not be taken from the LGU either. No? So it will still be taken from the national coffers, from the GEA. So we'll still have a part from all the revenue generation that will be done by the government, except that mababawasan lang. Okay. So we might have lower budget as well for capital outlay. So this would mean that the infrastructure projects that we have planned for our universities and colleges might not be funded at all. So what would this mean for us? So this is now the time for our state universities and colleges to really strengthen our planning and budgeting. We really have to learn how to prioritize what it is that we would want to be funded, because we know that all these projects would have to be funded under the GEA, and partly, of course, from our income. But we would have to determine saan mo muna talaga dapat dalhin yung pera. So our departments in our SUCs need to be highly capacitated for this exercise to be really excellent. Siyempre, pag konti yung pera, kailangan mo talagang alamin kung saan maganda mo siyang ilagay, no, in terms of spending it wisely. So what could we do? We have been partners of the local government units in so many ways. No, as the head of the Committee on Finance under the SUC Board of Regents or Board of Trustees, I would usually look into, or would usually review the memorandum of understanding or agreement that the SUCs go enter into with the local government units. And this could, of course, be strengthened, because this is where we could, not just getting a part of or sharing from the pie, from the big slice that would be taken by the LGUs, but this is also our way of extending our services. When it comes to extension, we would. This is where we could have more participation in extension services to our local government units, particularly for capacity building. We've been doing that already, but this time, because the LGUs would have to learn how to manage the resources wisely, they would need to be highly capacitated. Actually, when we had the meeting of the Committee on Devolution, there were already these apprehensions that have been expressed by our local government units that, of course, the responsibility is so big, and especially that the 2022 would, it's just a few months away, and they are not really 100% ready. So given that, they would have they would need assistance, not just from the line agencies, but even from the private sector, and of course from the state universities and colleges. So the capacity building would be revolving around governance, agricultural development, enterprise creation, industry development, science and technology, innovation, and those other areas where they need to be well equipped so that they will be able to deliver their services well to their constituents. And of course, on research, we know that they would have to undertake research as well. No? Kasama din po yun sa mga na-devolve na functions sa kanila, doing research for them to enhance the delivery of their mandates. And this is where we could have a good partnership, no? Doing the researches that would benefit the LGUs and the SUCs as well. No? Okay, so we could also have the implementation of community-based projects where this used to be in partnership with the regional line agencies. Wow, if you had several engagements or partnerships with the Department of Social Welfare and Development or with the Department of Agriculture, then because of the devolved function, it would have to be the LGU that you would have to partner with now. So this would be very significant for you to be doing once the Mandanas ruling will be implemented. Of course, this is a continuing engagement. No? Although the significant change is that the LGUs would now have the money, and it's not the agencies anymore. But however, there would remain some engagements that can still be funded by the national agencies. No? May mga later we could ask Ms. Manuel to clarify that hindi naman there would still be some functions that would remain within the national government agencies, and some would be a share between the national government agency and the local government units. So what is it really that we could do? So we've been mentioning these words earlier. You perhaps heard of that several times. So we really have to collaborate and build strong partnership with the local government units, not just to benefit, as I said, now let me just repeat this, not just to benefit from the big slice that they are getting, but it's more of us also extending a hand to our local government units. Now I'm saying this as a member of the Committee on Devolution, because when we had the meeting, we really saw how big, no? Sabi nga namin, it's really a gargantuan task for our local government units to be doing all this. No, imagine they will be doing all those services that have been previously done by several agencies, and now all of them will be done by them. So it's not just managing the resources, no, but putting these resources into good use. Okay, so with that, again, ulitin ko po, no, we need to collaborate and build strong partnership with the local government unit. We can also be a big brother to them. Lalong-lalo na itong mga initial, no, the transition years, the first 3 years would be very difficult for them. So I hope that we could really be highly participative in this exercise. So I guess that's all that you would need to hear from me. So again, thank you for the opportunity to join you this afternoon, and happy foundation anniversary to the Bicol University. Thank you.
That was another meaningful and well-packed with information discussion. Thank you very much, Director Agnes, for those additional useful, relevant, and noteworthy insights. Yung mga karagdagang konsepto at puntong tinalakay mo po, ma'am, enabled us to retain the essential points and implications of the Mandanas-Garcia ruling. Lagi nating binibigyang diin sa mga aktibidad po na tulad nito na hindi lamang natatapos doon sa pag-alam ng mga prinsipyo at konsepto, kundi mas magiging mahalaga or mas makikita natin yung halaga ng mga prinsipyo at konseptong pinag-aaralan natin kapag inilapat na po natin ito sa karanasan at tungkulin. For instance, sa mga isasagawang pagpaplano at implementasyon ng mga programa at proyekto ng iba't ibang opisina. Thank you very much once again, Director Agnes. We are nearing the end of our program, yet we will continue the exchange of learning and ideas as our participants express or share their questions, clarifications, and insights through the open forum. To moderate the process, let's welcome Professor Kalayaan C. Triumphante.
Thank you so much, Professor Oclaray. Just maray na hapon sa Indogabos. Welcome again to this very relevant and interesting webinar discussion on Mandanas-Garcia ruling. It's my pleasure to facilitate today's open forum with the presence of course, our highly esteemed experts, Ma'am February Manuel and Director Agnes Espinas Tolentino. So to start off, let me check if we have questions from our Zoom chat box and from the FB Live. All right. Okay, so I guess our participants are a little bit shy. You can, if you don't want to type your questions, maybe you can ask the questions personally to our resource persons. You can introduce yourself first, from what organization you come from, and your designation probably. Any takers? From our LGU participants and SUX participants. Come on, let's take this opportunity to interact and probably learn more from our resource persons. All right, so while you are probably forming your own questions, so maybe I can throw the first question to our resource persons. Okay, I have a raise of hand here from, yes, from Pili Campus. Yes, sir, can you introduce yourself?
I am Professor Celerino Villasol Jr., Campus Administrator of CBSUA. What is the effect of this Mandanas ruling to the university? Ano ang pinaka-harsh effect nito sa ating mga state universities and colleges? And what coping mechanisms would be adopted in order to cope up with such problem?
All right, so thank you for that question. Yes, can we ask Director Agnes first to answer the question?
Hello. Yes. Sir, yeah, I mentioned this already before, and I think it was also mentioned by Commissioner Derrida. Well, the big disadvantage that we could have now because of the Mandanas ruling would be a substantial decrease in the budget of the state universities and colleges, because as we said, no, the pie will not grow bigger, but because of the big slice that's going to the local government units, we could expect that some of our fund requirements could not be met. This could be like those projects, the big projects that we usually have now, especially the infrastructure projects. This might not be funded at all because, as again, if you listened earlier to to February, no, kanina, I think she mentioned the priorities that need to be funded, and it didn't include the higher education. So baka naka-back burner muna ngayon ang higher ed, and we could indeed expect that would experience this substantial decrease in our funds.
Thank you, Ma'am Agnes. Do you want to add something, Ma'am February?
Yes po. As mentioned po ni Ma'am Director Tolentino, yun nga po, merong substantial decrease sa budget kasi yung pie na pinaghahatian ng national government, SUCs and other bodies of the government aside from the LGUs, medyo lumiit siya in view of the devolution and of course yung effects ng pandemic at this time. As for the mitigation measures po na pwede natin gawin, I guess ang pinakauna is to improve our planning and strategy formulation. So we need to strategize how to effectively use our available resources given nga na lumiit siya. So I think naman po we can still fully utilize it if we plan our processes and procurements, processes and procedures ahead of time. Proper planning po talaga yung the one and strongest solution for this recent issue. Ayan po.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yes, and they have underscored the importance of collaboration, right, with LGUs, partnership. So our SUCs would really anchor on that new strategies, no, to really engage in research and extension and to capacitate our LGUs to this very important task ahead of them. All right. Yes, sir. Hopefully we answered your question. Another question from Attorney Norly Reyes. Go ahead, Attorney.
Hi, ma'am. Good afternoon po. Good afternoon, Ma'am Agnes. Although I understand the topics about the financial implication of Mandanas ruling, but what I'm thinking is the indirect impact of the Mandanas ruling sa SUs is along admission. Since LGUs will have now a large chunk of money from the share in the internal revenue share, hindi po kaya ma-politicize yung admission ng mga SUCs? Will it not also be an adverse impact of Mandanas ruling insofar as SUC operations are concerned? Thank you, Ma'am Agnes.
Well, you could say it can. No, it can actually lead to that if kasi pwedeng sabihin na okay, you allow us this much number of or in a percentage for your admission, and this is also the equivalent funds that would go with it. So it would just call for really prinsipyo on how you would really manage your policies and guidelines as regards admission. So it would actually be a factor that would have to be considered. Serious yan di ba? Because if you won't be able to really manage your admission, no? Because you have certain standards that you need to meet, no? Dapat papasa sa exam, ganito dapat yung rank, or ganito dapat yung average na grade. No, but if you would consider the like a parang in exchange for admissions in your university, in exchange for something, well, pwede talagang it could kakaroon ng negative impact on the quality of the education, the quality of the students. So yun naman ang makikita natin. So call na ng call ng administration yan. Kung paano yan i-handle.
Yes, I agree, Ma'am Agnes. Ma'am February, do you have something? Okay. Yes, I think this would be a challenge for the SUC administrators, especially revising or improving the policy on admission, so that we will be able to have to ensure the quality of our students or incoming students. Do you have a follow-up question, Attorney Norly?
Actually, I have another one.
Sure, sir.
With respect to the operations of the LUCs po, yung local universities and colleges, will the Mandanas Garcia ruling have in any way an adverse impact with respect to the relationship between SUCs and the LUCs, considering that since LGUs will have a lot of budget now, they can focus also, though it may not necessarily be part of the revolve function, but there could be a way on the LGUs can fund the operations of loops. Will that not affect also the operations of SUKS po?
Yeah, I guess I would have to respond to that. No? If the LUCs that's being funded by the LGUs will now have the sufficient, kasi right now kulang din talaga yung pondo nila, no? That's why they have difficulty in hiring the best professors that they could get, no, and then having all the facilities and utilities that they would need so that they can deliver good quality of education. But if they can now have the funds, then they would, they can already do that. No, they can start doing that, enhancing or improving the way they manage their LUCs. But of course, since this is still pwede talaga maging kakompetensya ni din yung LUCs, but depende na yun kung anong klaseng standard naman ng education yung madadala nila, no? Yung mga SUCs na build na nila yan eh. So of course, it's actually an advantage din doon sa mga hindi naman kasi lahat ng estudyante na absorb ng SUCs, no? And most of them would also go to the LUCs. So it's magbe-benefit din yung mga tao. So in the long run, that would have to be. So ano na lang yan, na baka maganda nga, makipag-partner na lang kayo sa LUCs. It would be good, no? To have the partnership with them as well.
Yes, thank you so much, Ma'am Tolentino. Our BU President has something to say, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Ian. That's one issue or concern which I would like us to look into. It's about the complementation between the LUCs and the SUCs because of this Mandanas ruling. Well, to me, I think with the Mandanas ruling, now LUCs would have more fund to really enhance their educational system through the LUCs. And I think in the case of the SUCs, since everybody would like to enroll in the SUC, particularly in BU, I think with this development, we can now pattern our admission system with that what is existing in the US, such that only those who are qualified to be admitted in the SUCs will get admission. And maybe the SUCs now can prioritize their budget to more meaningful ones, like perhaps investing more on SNT, R&D, etc., and then offering programs which the LUCs may not be able to offer because of the prohibitive cost. So in other words, this is one opportunity which I think SUCs should look into. In fact, when we were preparing the proposal for the, there was this admonition from the good commissioner that we revised the charter of BU. That was the thing that was in my mind. How do we pattern the delivery of education in the Philippines, particularly in Bicol region, to that of those in the US, wherein there are community colleges, there is state universities funded by the state, and not all may be admitted dito sa mga SUCs. So, but since I only have 1 year and 6 months left, I leave it to the next president to ponder upon.
Yes, thank you so much, Pres Noli, for that very valuable input. Can you also stay, sir? We have a question here. Will this have an effect on the free tuition policy after 2022? This is from our Dean from CBEM, Dr. Eddie C.
Of course, can I answer that?
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Of course, this would have some implications free higher education because, as I've said a while ago, because of this Mandanas ruling, the pie would become very much smaller.
And every year, we need around 52 billion pesos to finance itong free higher education. So I don't know how far we can sustain this free higher education. I hope we can.
Yes, sir. Yes, that's really a challenge for all the SOOCs. All right. We have a question also from Professor Juliet Mamyot. Yes, ma'am. Do you have a question? Ma'am Juliet Gonzalez.
Naka-mute po si ma'am. Parang nagsasalita siya pero naka-mute.
Can you unmute? Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everybody. Earlier, I would like also to ask the similar question as that of Attorney Norly and also our President Noli, because that really bothers us, especially we from the College of Agriculture and Forestry, because we'd really been hearing that several LUCs are beginning to be established in our neighboring municipalities and city in the 3rd district of Albay. And I think it's really a very good, it's a challenge on our part to look into, it's high time now for us to be able to upgrade our curricular programs, that it will be competitive. And ay siguro hindi naman that we will be competing with the LUCs. Maybe let us give them the chance also to do it. But we can complement with one another, as just what President Noli had said a while ago. We can complement with them those mga what do you call that, mga skills, knowledge and skills which are quite simple. Let us leave it to them. But we from the College of Agriculture and Forestry, we can come up with competitive development programs as far as our curriculum in agriculture, forestry, and nature management is concerned. Because that's really now the ruling. We cannot also do away with that Mandanas-Garcia ruling. Siguro it's more on complementation. Sabi nga ni Director Ness, it's more of a collaborative undertaking. And siguro it's really high time that we upscale our research and extension undertakings para talaga we can really have an impact, at least at the local level na lang, no? Then later i-upgrade na natin to the national and international level. And it's a great challenge on our part. Siguro pag-isipan talagang gusto natin yan in our university. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ma'am Yot, for your inputs. Yes, truly, there are a lot of challenges and implications of this Mandanas-Garcia ruling, not only in LGUs, but also for us in SOOCs and LUCs. We have a question also from Professor Julieta Mojados. Aside from budget cut, what other negative effects will possibly be experienced by SOOCs? What can NEDA suggest to help SOOCs cope? Thank you. Yes, Ma'am Agnes.
Basically, the big impact really is on the budget, no? Kasi ito namang Mandanas Garcia ruling is just talking about money. No, it's talking about their share from the revenues. So this is where the impact could be when it comes to the SUCs. Wala, pera-pera lang to.
Yeah.
But how I think I mentioned some of this, what the SUCs could actually do. No? It's and it was also mentioned by Ms. Manmedo. You really now have to exercise or to be fully capacitated with your planning and budgeting. Prioritization is the key, because aside naman from the funds that you'll be getting from your GAA, you still have your income, di ba, Pres? You still have your income. So now you would have to determine what would be the best use of your money. So parang nanay lang na kailangan mag-budget at kailangan alamin ano yung talagang kailangan paglagyan ng pera. Because you don't have much, no, you don't have much, so you would have to determine what is it that you really need, at ano naman yung pwede mo nang for later, no? For later kung meron lang ibang source. And this is also the time that aside from collaborating with the LGU, but it should also be the time to have your network widen, no? Because when you establish your network, this is where you could also get funds. Hindi lang naman GAA, hindi lang naman income ang pwedeng pagkuhaan ng pera. Hindi lang naman pwede kayong manghingi sa mga congressman. There are international institutions as well who could provide for to augment, no, to somehow augment the funds, and there are several of that. And this is it's like widening your horizon, so that you look beyond the boundaries of the Bicol region, of Pilipinas, no, or Asia, Europe. So you could start looking into these possibilities.
All right. Thank you, Director Agnes, for your inputs. Do we have queries from our LGUs, from our participants, from LGUs? Probably they are interested, Ma'am Manuel, on the budget allocation on 2022. What will be the basis of the budget appropriation? Will it be coming from the same from the ERA, the indicators or the criteria for allocating the budget for LGUs, or will the DTPs will affect or somehow contribute to that?
As I've mentioned po, the NTA will be automatically released. So the computation is still the same with the ERA. Kaya lang mas malaki na yung basis nila compared before. So wala naman po talaga. This will be automatically come January, the BTR will release the NTAs to the local government units.
So meaning to say the cities will get a bigger chunk, the higher the population, the higher the computation of the ERA. Meaning to say.
That is a factor po. Syempre, there are land areas and other factors po for the computation.
Land area.
Yeah. Okay. So
can I add pala po?
Sure,
yung sa query po na what can the SUCs do? Of course, as I've highlighted po, we encourage partnership with the SUCs in terms of capacity development activities, both to the local government unit employees and national government national government agency employees. So as I've cited as an example po, the BU is currently has a MOA with the DBM in the form of the PFM-CP, which is the PFM competency program, wherein we capacitate the national government employees in all areas of the public financial management, including internal audit, collaboration, and so on. So you can venture in those types of activities po, and that would be greatly appreciated by the national government agencies, given that we also have limited capacity in terms of capacity building activities for all the members of the national government and local government units. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. The LGUs might also be interested if, say, for example, ma'am, aside from the capacity building needs of the LGUs, for example, in the agri sector, what if they need more manpower? They need to hire more agri-extensionists because they think that they lack manpower in order to give quality service, no, to a lot of farmers. Will the DBM be able to give positions or permanent positions for that matter?
currently po, the DBM proposed, hindi ko na, hindi ko siya na percent, pero it's under the general provisions of the NEP 2022. So there is already a proposition from the DBM on the waiving of the PS limitations for certain items to be created in view of the devolution. So that is one way na since the LGUs have the authority to create the position, so that is the counterpart of the DBM that we propose for approval, of course, of the Congress on the waiving of the PS limitations for those positions. So yun po yung ano. Yes po.
All right. And yes, probably the last question regarding monitoring and evaluation. The EO also underscored the importance of the involvement of different CSOs, NGOs. Can they also have access to some funds for their operation to push the advocacy and also for M&E works, for example?
As to that po, medyo hindi pa ako sure. Maybe I can get back to you on that. But of course, they can be provided with the necessary honoraria if they provided their services. So those may be considered. Pero as to the specific provisions for that, maybe I can get back to you na lang po on those things.
Okay, thank you. And also maybe the SUCs can have an active role on this, the monitoring, evaluation, and impact assessment of the different program implementations of the LGUs. All right, so if there's no pending questions, would you like to say your final words, Ma'am Agnes and Manuel?
Yeah, sige. If I may go ahead. Again po, I'm very thankful for this opportunity given that it is really the advocacy of the national government right now to parang ipagkalat ang nangyayari sa government due to this devolution. And wala na din naman pa masabi. The DBM is always open. My number is always open po for any questions regarding this, given that we are also the ComDev Secretariat. So we are actually tasked to collect any issues. So if there are issues from the SUCs, you can forward it to DBM and we can discuss it through the regional ComDev. And if hindi pa po kaya ng regional ComDev, maybe we can elevate it to the national ComDev. Again, so thank you very much po, President Mascareñas, and happy 52nd founding anniversary.
Thank you and welcome.
Yes, thank you, Ma'am February. And Director Agnes?
Well, the devolution of functions and services as resulting from the Mandanas Garcia ruling is both both a challenge. This is a challenge for the state universities and colleges to do better. And this is also an opportunity for them, as I said earlier, to be a big brother to the local government units, because they would definitely need a helping hand. Because especially during the first 3 years, the transition years, they would be groping, because this is a big responsibility to be taking on all the services that used to be delivered, used to be provided by government agencies, and now it has become a part of their function. So this would really be difficult for them. So I hope that, especially in the capacity building, the SUCs would be able to help our local government units. So be a big brother to them. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to our distinguished panel of experts, Ma'am February Manuel and Director Agnes Espinas Tolentino, for sharing your time and expertise with us. So hopefully your lines are open to continuously assist us, SUCs and LGUs, for the implementation of this Mandanas Garcia ruling. All right. Back to you, Professor Uclaray.
Thank you very much, Professor Ayan, our speakers, President Nolly, and to all our participants for sharing your inputs and for that meaningful discourse and exchange of ideas and insights. As we conclude our discussion, we would like to, once again, thank you to all the people who have made this webinar a success, to our esteemed speakers, Commissioner Darilag, Ms. February Manuel, and Director Agnes Tolentino. Thank you for imparting your distinguished and profound knowledge about our topic and for being with us in our celebration of the 52nd founding anniversary of Bicol University. To formally close our webinar, let's hear the closing message of Professor Eda Salvacion Adornado, the Department Chair of the Bachelor of Public Administration.
Thank you very much, Professor Uclaray. But before we close our webinar on the implementation of the Mandaras ruling and its implication to the state universities and colleges, I'd like to take this opportunity to extend our heartfelt gratitude and in behalf of my director, Dr. Noemi L. Ibo, who is currently attending an equally important activity, we would like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our two brilliant speakers, Director Agnes Tolentino of the NEDA Region 5, and to Ms. February Manuel, the OIC Chief Budget Management Specialist of DBM 5, for accepting the challenge of being our speakers today. Thank you very much for including us in your busy schedule. This webinar is our university's modest response in coming to grips with significant changes that is soon to take place in our country when the Mandanas ruling will be implemented in the year 2022. Mandanas ruling is a change changer, and local budgeting it has repercussions to the operations of the state universities and colleges. But rest assured that because of our two exemplary speakers, we have gained a lot of knowledge and a better appreciation of the topic. Thank you very much to all of our participants online and here in the Zoom meeting and in the Facebook live stream for joining us this afternoon. And allow me also to congratulate the Office of the Vice President for Administration and Finance through the leadership of Attorney Joseph Martulata, and also to the BU Extension Management Division through the leadership also of Director Rowena F. Zoilo. And of course, to our institute, the Jesse M. Robredo Institute of Governance and Development, for organizing this webinar. And lastly, please allow me to greet our beloved Bicol University. Happy 52nd founding anniversary to our university officials, our beloved President, Dr. Arnulfo M. Mascarenhas, to our Vice President for Academic Affairs, Madam Ami Durosan. Thank you very much for allowing us to conduct this activity. Stay safe, everyone, and we hope that we will see you again in our next event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Eda. That was our discussion on the implementation of Mandanas Garcia ruling and its implications to state universities and colleges. This has been Angelo, a faculty member of the Social Work Department, saying Diyos mabalos sa pakikilahok sa webinar na ito. We hope that you have gained useful and practical insights that you can apply in your respective professional undertakings. So once again, happy 52nd founding anniversary, Bicol University. And for the last part of our program, may I invite everyone, lahat po ng nandito sa ating Zoom meeting para sa isang photo opportunity. Thank you very much. And would like to remind all our participants na nakalagay na po yung ating evaluation link dito sa ating chat box. Please access na lang po. Thank you. And may I request po the technical team to please provide us a cue kapag taking picture na. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Pres Noli.
Thank you, Arlie Agnes, for gracing our occasion.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you,
Happy anniversary.
February.
Thank you po.
See you next
sir.
time.
Yes po.
Smile, 1, 2, 3. Another one po. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Okay na po. Thank you.
So,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Thank you po. Bye-bye.
Thank you po.
Thank you so much po and congratulations to the organizers.